Hey everybody, so here we are with Grow the Game, and we are actually going to talk about um, some why we do what we do, some basic info for some of you parents that are watching to help you guys understand what's going on. Um, Too often you guys are um, you don't understand what's going on, and it's not your fault, and so it's frustrating to understand why they're calling or why a kid's getting pulled out or what are we trying to do out there. Um, so I just want to try to help you guys. So maybe some of you parents are um, less frustrated. You have a better understanding of what's going on. You can relate to your kid when they're trying to tell you what's going on a little bit. And also, I'd really like to get out of this, and here's some success story is from watching these, you understood the basics of the game. You've watched a couple of those ones about some drills, and you got out of your comfort zone, and you maybe coached a Salvation Army team, or you coached a club team, and you just went out there and you did the best you could to help these kids. So let me know if that happens. I would love to make that a story interview you. So here's a couple basics. Okay, it's obviously 6-on-6. And what we do is typically, if we're talking middle school, if we're talking ninth grade JV, something like that, you're usually playing the best of three. And by that, it's first one to 25 in set one and two, and then to 15 on the last and deciding set. And you have to win by two. Sometimes there's a cap to where you can go, so we kind of end it there. So that way it doesn't get too crazy. So that's kind of the basics of how many kids are out there. You have your score. Let's go into where I think the biggest thing I've always heard is this kid with a different color jersey. What in the world are they doing? Why are they mismatched? Um, and I want to talk about why we sub and kind of how we do that. Okay, so typically here's your normal rotation, right? Okay, those are your spots. You have your 6 spots for your 6 kids. Okay. Now, why we sub is to get kids in position to make the best plays and typically to have a particular type of player in a particular spot, right? So maybe, as someone goes to the back row, I want more of a passer who's going to get more passes, right? And whoever's going to go front row, maybe I need, a bigger kid that can block or that can hit, because that's who's going to be the most effective up there. Okay. Now, let's talk about this different colored jersey kid. Okay. It's called a Libero, or some people call it a Libero, kind of wherever you're from, or the bro, if you're just trying to be funny. Um, but this person is allowed to go in for 2 people. Okay, let's just say she'll go in for this person, and she'll play back row. Okay, and typically they go in for the opposite spot. Okay, so that way when number 6 here starts to go up front, the libero cannot go up front, so she will then go take the place of number 3. She basically doesn't come out of the game very often. She'll typically serve for one of them. She can't serve for both. Okay. And what you see with a libero is one of your best passers, a good defensive person who's great with leadership, kind of direct people. Um, so typically, what you see is a really good defensive person who's going to be out in the back row the whole time, right? That makes sense. You want someone who can pass back there passing a lot, right? And what you would normally see is she goes in for middles. who are usually, again, taller, bigger blockers, more about the hitting and blocking than they are passing, right? So it makes sense to trade out someone who is not a good passer for someone who is a really good passer every time they go in the back, where a lot of passes will happen, right? So this is why we use liberos. Okay, they also don't go against our subs. We only have a certain amount that we can use. They don't count. They're like a special. Okay, so libero does not count. So that helps us with our numbers. So if we're subbing a lot of other kids, that kind of helps us out. Okay, but it also puts typically a really good passer, a good defensive leader out there a lot. Okay, I had a parent, one of my first jobs. His kid was a middle, and he had no idea as to why she kept getting pulled out every time she would go to the back. And loved the guy to death, loved the kid to death. But it's just because they didn't know what they didn't know yet. And I had to explain this. You want good passers in the back because they're going to do a lot of passing. You want good hitters in the front because they're going to do a lot of the hitting and blocking. She was a phenomenal athlete, no doubt. She just wasn't a great passer. So it wasn't an ideal time and place to have her back there. Okay. So let's also talk about this. Let's scoot into, you'll typically hear 5-1 or 6-2. Okay. What do those mean and why do we do them? Okay. 5 and 6, the first number, is referring to the number of hitters. Okay. And 1 and 2 referring to how many setters you have in your system. Okay. So just throw this out there. Here's my half of the court. Okay. Don't worry about all this. This is over and done with. Okay. I have my 6 players in a very typical, normal defense. Okay, this would be base. Okay, we're not going to worry about all that right now. But they hit the ball over. Let's just say they pass it over to us. They free ball. Okay. What we want, and I have to tell my kid this all the time, passers pass, hitters hit, and setters set. If we can stick to that formula, you're going to be pretty good. Okay. You're going to be very fluid in what you're doing. So typically, here's where your setter is. Okay. Let's talk about 5-1. Okay. We'll get to 6-2 in a minute. Here we go. 5-1. They're passing the ball over. We want our setter to get up here in this best place available to set. Okay. And typically you'll see these 2 passers come back here and they'll split and take all of the back row. That way the passers are passing. Okay. So then when they pass it to my setter, who's now up front, she can then set the hitters where my 3 hitters are. They'll transition off and then go hit. But this is us setting, okay? And this allows us, like I said, passer to pass, setter set, hitter hit. Let's just say we keep rotating, the game's going on. This is the difference between a 5-1 and a 6-2. If our setter's right here, she's rotated all the way to, when we get the ball back, she now goes front row. In a 5-1, she stays the setter because we only have 1 setter. So she stays setting the whole time. Front row, back row, doesn't matter. Okay. Which would mean we have, in this situation, we have 3 hitters. And when she comes up front, that only leaves us with 2. That's where we get the 5. Right? So now we have 5-1, and that just keeps rotating. She keeps setting. We keep having hitters come in. Okay. So here's a little bit of the difference. Here's 6-2. When the setter goes to go front row, typically you'll bring in another hitter to replace her. You'll sub her out, right? We want the front row people being hitters and blockers. And whoever this person is that's coming back here to serve, a new setter will come in for her. So now we only ever have one setter in the game, but we got two of them throughout all the rotations and functioning. Now, the upside and the downside. Why would we even do this stuff? What's the pros and cons? 6'2", this means I always have 3 hitters at all times. Doesn't matter where a setter is, because they're always going to be back row. You're always going to have 3 hitters available. More hitters, more options. Sounds good. Sometimes you have kids that can function in a 5-1 and be very good. Maybe you have a setter who's really tall, who can also block and handle the front row. Maybe she's really good at dumping and attacking from the front row as a setter. This gives you also, I think, an easier situation as far as offense and defense. So what you're seeing sometimes is when you're seeing your kids come in and out, they're in particular systems and being put in a situation where it makes the team and the system function well. It's not always they did something bad. It's not always, they're not good enough. It's just we need, maybe we have 6 good hitters and we're going to utilize them, right? Maybe we have 2 setters who are really good. I had 2 girls that could go play college ball last year. I had to use both of them. They're just too good not to play, right? So there's just sometimes situations. And hopefully with me doing this right here, and I'll have a small series, so I'll do a few of these, help you guys understand what's going on. You understand what we're seeing, and you can, I think, recognize a good coach when you see it. You can empathize with your kids. You can understand what they're telling you better. You can understand the game better. So please, if you have any questions, please ask. I think I would love to have more parents have a better understanding of the game for a lot of those reasons I just mentioned. So please share this with any of your parents, your parent group me's, your parent messaging system, however that is, so that they can better understand the game and we can help them, right? And therefore they can help us better. And now we're working together for these kids. So again, thank you very much. It's another episode of Grow the Game, and it's going to be a small series of helping parents and talking about the game and helping them understand. Thank y'all.